Good evening and welcome to the April 6th City Council meeting. If you'd join me for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, Ms. Orlovsky, roll call, please.
Shel Volk.
Here.
Luke Hellier.
Here.
John Bermel.
Here.
Dan Wolter.
Here.
Joshua Lee.
Here. Okay, we'll move on to item 3. This is citizens' comments, opportunity for anyone to address the council for up to 3 minutes. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to additional agenda information, Mr. Miller.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
All right into number 5, recognition and badging of our new firefighters. And I'll turn it over to our fire chief, Mike Meyer.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. It's my pleasure to introduce 13 firefighters who joined the fire department March of last year. These individuals represent the pivotal chapter in our department's history. And tonight we're recognizing their transition from probationary status to permanent members of our team. So as I say their names, I'd invite them and their families to come forward. So firefighter Kyle Johnson, Ben Fleischer, Nels Fredrickson, Ashley Hellier, Lucas Churchill, Devon Holminski, Steve Grass, Dom Dolinsky, Derek Stepaniak, Aaron Eicher, Matt Woodford, Steve Higgins, and Jacob Coughlin. So as they assemble up here, this group has successfully navigated the first year of probation. Their training included a 4-week academy, as far as a BLS academy, a joint academy through 4 cities. Not only did they complete that academy, they had specialized training as far as fire inspector, water rescue, and then they've also done further beyond that of growing on their education for fire instructor, fire officer certification, and several additionally went after their child passenger safety technician or car seat install. A lot of that. These firefighters have been instrumental in our department's strategic transition into a hybrid staffing model. Their presence has allowed us to consistently staff 2 engines, which significantly improved our operational readiness. They have not only embraced our department's culture, but also dedicated countless hours to delivering training that has elevated the skill sets to our entire staff. So I want to thank them for their dedication to the city of Lakeville and to look forward to their continued service to our community. And I'm going to pivot to do the oath with them.
Very good.
I'll ask the firefighters to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and faithfully state of Minnesota and faithfully discharge the duties of firefighter of the city of Lakeville in the county of Dakota and state of Minnesota to the best of my judgment and ability. So help me God. If your family members want to pin your badge on, I see some already got them on. So obviously this is a mixed group. We have some internal candidates and some external candidates that are receiving their badges. So.
Okay. Very good. Council, any comments you'd like to? Yeah. Well, I'll just say this. I mean, for those new to the city, we want to welcome you. For those who were internal, thank you for taking the next step for our community as we kind of move into this new phase of the hybrid department. Obviously been working for almost over a year, I guess, but the fact that this is kind of the, this stamp, if you will, on where we're going as a community. So we're so excited to work with you and to support you. And again, to your families, thank you for the sacrifices that you do. Allow your spouse or others in your family to serve our city. We're grateful for that and grateful for all of you. So welcome. We'll have you guys come through. We're going to shake all of your hands. I'd also like to give them a round of applause. Thank you guys, everybody. Yeah, we'll give you guys a moment to kind of
Exit.
exit. Thank you again. We won't make you sit through. It's going to be a barn burner tonight, so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
All right, we'll turn it on to our next item, which is a proclamation for Arbor Day, and our city forester, Zach Jorgensen, will kind of give us some background, and Councilmember Bermal will read the proclamation.
Council. My name is Zach Jorgensen, City Forester of Lakeville. Just here with a brief introduction for the Arbor Day proclamation for. Is this better?
Yep, there you go.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
Good evening. So Zach Jorgensen, City Forester of Lakeville, with just a quick introduction for this year's Arbor Day proclamation. Arbor Day, of course, is a celebration of our trees and forests and all the benefits they provide in our community and to the residents of the city. So this year, Lakeville was recognized for the 33rd year as a Tree City USA. We also, again, received the Growth Award for activities for community forest management in the past year. A few of the things that we included with the application were Grace Benson, our forestry technician, received ISA certification this year. So she is a official forester now. We also, upped our maintenance of recently planted trees. So we actually got out and structurally pruned about 200 of our new trees this year, as well as had our seasonal forestry staff over the summer last year maintaining 750 trees that were planted just in the past couple of years. So a lot of work on that to get those going. And then, of course, continuing to seek out additional grant funding for EAB management as we continue to work through Arbor in the city. There are 2 steps required to receive a Tree City USA award. One is hosting a community event to celebrate Arbor Day, and the other is approving an Arbor Day proclamation. This year's events, like last year, we're doing our annual tree sale again this year. So we did up our numbers and we sold just over 300 trees, 16 different species around the community for just a discounted price to residents. That opened in February, as it usually does, and closes this Friday. So there's a chance to snag one of the last few trees still, if anyone is still looking. And our pickup event is going to be April 18th as part of the Earth Day celebration out at CMF. So that's coming up here quick. Our volunteer planting event this year will be Wednesday, May 6th. That'll be at Cherry View Park. We'll be planting about 25 trees. And we've actually opened registration this year for the first time, both on our website as well as the Park and Rec's activity page, so folks can find that multiple ways and sign up to join us. So with that, and I will note that tree planting starts this week. So it's time, despite the cold weather.
You say May 6th at Cherry View?
Correct.
Wow, all those people that live by there that are really focused on their park, I hope they show up that day.
I do too.
Yeah.
Excellent. So with that, I thank you for your consideration of this year's proclamation.
Great. Councilmember Bermal?
all right. City of Lakeville Proclamation for Arbor Day. Whereas established in 1872, Arbor Day provides an opportunity to celebrate the importance of trees and forests in our economy, culture, history, and future of our community. And whereas National Arbor Day Foundation has recognized Lakeville with a 2025 Growth Award and for the 33rd year as a Tree City USA for promoting community forestry programs. And whereas trees provide clean air and water, shade, energy savings, wildlife habitat, recreational opportunities, wood products, and jobs, capture and store carbon from the atmosphere and increase property values. And whereas thoughtfully selecting, planting, and caring for a diverse mix of trees supports a resilient community into the future while providing long-term community and environmental benefits for all. And whereas the City of Lakeville will observe Arbor Day on Saturday, April 18th at the Arbor Day Tree Sale event, and will continue to celebrate Arbor Month with a volunteer planting project at Cherry View Park on Wednesday, May 6th. Therefore, the City Council of the City of Lakeville, in support of its community forest, proclaims now therefore the Lakeville City Council does hereby proclaim that Saturday, April 18th, 2026 shall be observed as Arbor Day in the City of Lakeville, proclaimed the 6th day of April, 2026.
Very good. Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Look forward to it. Okay, we'll move on to item C, just a change in our agenda. It's not actually the proclamations on the agenda, but we will have Councilmember Lee read the Together in Peace Day proclamation.
Absolutely, and I'll tee this one up real quick. This proclamation is in relation to an annual event that's happened in Lakeville for the last several years and it's a grassroots efforts by several nonprofit organizations and individuals that truly just from a grassroots effort to get the community together, because when we do things together, good things happen. And so this is an invitation to the whole community to join in the festival, which is happening May 16th from 11 to 4 p.m. in Casperson Park. So the proclamation reads, Together in Peace Day, whereas the City of Lakeville recognizes the importance of fostering peace, mutual understanding, and belonging within our community and beyond, and whereas the United Nations has designated May 16th as the International Day of Living Together in Peace, encouraging people worldwide to promote values of peace, tolerance, belonging, understanding, and solidarity. And whereas previous Together in Peace Days events have successfully strengthened our local community, fostering lasting relationships and vital multicultural and interfaith dialogue. And whereas peace building is a continuous collaborative effort among our residents, businesses, faith organizations, and schools. And whereas celebrating Together in Peace Day on May 16th, 2026, reinforcing Lakeville's dedication to being a welcoming and inclusive city. Now, therefore, the Lakeville City Council does hereby proclaim that Saturday, May 16th, 2026, shall be observed as Together in Peace Day in the City of Lakeville, proclaimed the 6th day of April, 2026.
And something new this year I think is fun. We're going to be celebrating with Valencia, Spain at the same time, which is fitting considering Lakeville's Nate Reavers plays for the professional basketball team in Valencia, Spain. So we have a real connection with them. Moving on to item D, which is our Public Works Quarterly Report, and we'll turn it over to our Public Works Director, Mr. Omi. Good evening.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. This is the first quarter report for Public Works. So I'd like to start off with some new employees we just hired. Charlie Togel is our new engineering tech. He's going to be working in the construction services area. He's worked 8 years in construction all across the country, big construction projects. And just recently, he's getting his degree at Dakota Technical College for civil engineering tech. And right out of high school, actually worked in he was in the Navy for 4 years. So Chloe Anderson, she comes to us from a consulting firm in Wisconsin. She's worked there for 5 years. She also worked for the city of North Fargo, and she got her civil engineering degree at University of North Dakota. And Oscar Gaspar, he's our new utility maintenance one employee, and he comes from us from Apple Valley. He was summer help over there, and then also in Northfield too. He spent the summer in the Parks Department there. Moving on, so Public Works had the opportunity to participate in some AI training for all the departments and divisions. This is a training that helped explain the nature of the AI, the common perceptions, mistakes, and look at overview of the AI in general, the AI in general. Again, common mistakes that are used with AI, and then just kind of review best practices in AI security when you're using those programs, and then also learn advanced techniques and practices for those applications and how to best incorporate that into your everyday workflow. And this is a really good opportunity that we had to learn AI and then how to become more efficient in our work using AI. Moving on to the streets division, spring activities are well underway now. The spring tree trimming and removals are now complete, and we're moving on to street sweeping. We're going to be working 6 days a week now on street sweeping until the whole city is swept. We're looking at priority areas around the lake first. And pothole patching is ongoing as well right now as time allows and weather. And then snow removal, this is just kind of our tallies over the years of snow that we've had in events that we've had, salt usages. So we're running about average of what we've seen over the last, say, 10 years with a normal snow event right around 50 inches. Salt usage was up a little bit from the last 2 years. It's because of the nature of the snow events and the ice events that we've had.
More like 46.
Moving on to utility division. Biggest project we're working on right now is replacing the filter media at the water treatment plant. The old media is from the original plant, which was built in 98, so almost 30 years old now. And the filter over time deteriorates, it gets clogged, doesn't work as well, so every so often you have to replace that filter media. So we're in the process of that right now. The project is over 75% done. 6 of the 8 filters are completed. We're working on the last 2 right now, and we're scheduled to have that project completed by the end of the month. Sewer lining project is going to get going here pretty quick. Just wanted to highlight that a little bit. You're going to see some trucks out in the field. We're going to be lining about 2.5 miles worth of clay and concrete pipes around the community this year. This is to help reduce the amount of groundwater getting into our pipes, causing potential backups, and getting clear water into our system and paying for that water at the treatment plant. So try to reduce those costs as best as we can. Water main breaks are tracking as about average for the last 5 years. We've had so far 5 water main breaks, our cast iron pipes specifically, and then 3 services as well. Those are the services that go into people's houses, but they're in the city right-of-way portion. Hydrant flushing is going to be starting up here in a couple of weeks as well, too. So we're going to be flushing all our hydrants, just making sure hydrants that are exercised are in good working order for any future fire demand flows, and then also making sure they're exercised and getting out the sediment that may accumulate over time in some of those dead-end pipes. And then moving on to environmental, over the last year, the city has received over $700,000 from different grants through different organizations and state agencies, and are really happy to be partners in those type of projects. The projects range from stormwater, clean water improvement projects and ponds and streams, the creeks improvements, removing sediments from our ponds or from our lakes as well too. So a lot of different projects, and then also there's projects for restoration projects, natural areas as well. So in parks that we've received over the year. This winter, we've cleaned out 3 storm sewer ponds over on 170th in Pilot and Arbor Road, Sky Park, Sky Glass Park, and then Orchard Lake as well. Those projects are mostly complete. We still have a little restoration work to do yet. And then moving on to Ritter Park. Phases 1 and 2 are going well. Phase 2 is almost complete with tree removals and black locust stump grinding that recently took place. We did do some prairie restoration as well recently, and we're moving on to phase 3. This is a multi-year project and should be wrapped up by 2030. And then moving on to the forestry division, our forester gives some of these updates already. We are removed 125 trees from our right-of-way and adjacent outlots this winter. And the ash tree treatment program is going to be starting up here pretty soon. There are scheduled to be 613 trees that we'll be treating again this year. It's a 2-year treatment program. That number is down 27% from years prior, and we are continuing to see a downward trend in the amount of trees that we'll be treating in the future. And then the city does offer residents the opportunity to use our contractor for injection for ash trees on their property and private. So you can go to the city's website and check that out for additional information on getting your tree treated for ash. So tree epidemic pest control. So we're working through private ash tree inspections this year again. So that 310 trees were inspected and letters have been sent out to those property owners. This is down from the last 2 years as well. We have received really good responses as of the date. There's 147 properties that are been in fully compliant, and work is completed. We're still working with 11 properties on current non-compliance in that process. And then EAB updates, again, that shade tree grant program. This is the last year, 3-year grant that we're working with. 79 trees were removed in 5 parks throughout the communities. Those trees will be planted again in the spring or in the fall of this year and throughout the community, and that will be the last installment for the grant. And then there's another 121 trees that will be planted in parks and various locations along the right-of-way, just replacing the trees that were removed this winter through the EAB program. And then forestry division, again, we're good through the Arbor Day program. There are 313 trees that were available for purchase for residents at a reduced cost. That number is up from 200 that was available in 2025. There's still a couple trees left, so if property owners, residents want to check the website and still take advantage of that tree sale, that would be great. And you can pick the trees up on Saturday, April 18th at the Central Maintenance Facility. And then Forestry also was involved with the Home Expo. On March 21st, there was a lot of discussions with property owners on best practices for tree care and maintenance. A lot of questions about EAB, obviously. And then there was a training event on March 25th at Antlers Park on how to best prune and maintain small trees for residents. That was through the Park and Recreation Department. And then upcoming events, again, Earth Day, I just want to highlight that one more time, is on Saturday, April 18th at Central Maintenance Facility, and there is a free garden tool swap that is available through Dakota Valley Recycling that is available, so bring your old garden equipment and swap it out for a new one. And then other upcoming events, there is landscape and clean water intro courses that are coming up that are available. There already was one in Lakeville on, I think it was March 12th, but there's other ones that are available. And then also, after you take the introduction course, you can take a design course and get more involved with how to take care of or design rainwater gardens and any landscaping improvements on your property. There is grant money that's also available through this program, $400 through the Dakota Conservation District, and then also through the city billing or the Water Resources Department. And there is also free paper shredding available events coming up in Lakeville on April 25th, and then Egan and Burnsville in May and June. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Okay, council, any questions or comments? Joshua?
I have a question. The upcoming cleanup day, I think there's always been a little confusion on the garden swap
Okay.
tool event. So you bring in an old rake, anything.
Double.
And
Yep.
there are new tools available that you just take as an exchange?
With
Or
an
is it-
exchange, yep.
Or is it other people's donated items that you're exchanging with your own?
I think you exchange your old equipment for a new shovel or rake or something.
Got it.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. I think there was, a few people were thinking that you were swapping with people who
Oh.
are also trading items in. Yeah, more like a trade as opposed to a swap for new items. So that's a great deal.
Okay.
So, thanks.
Thank you.
Well, once I want to send a gratitude to the utility or parks or, excuse me, Public Works for all the snow removal. It was a interesting year out, as they say here in Minnesota. But then also how responsive they've been on when people have concerns about, grass dug up and those type of things. So thank you for that.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to our consent agenda. Anything you'd like to highlight, Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. A couple items. Items 6J and 6W are both final plats in the Heritage Commons area, and these will be bringing some new retail establishments to the area, which we're very excited about. Item 6U is a resolution amending the dates of City Council meetings for 2026. We've tried out this new format for a while. We need to formally adopt. So basically, this is just removing what were the work sessions from the official city calendar moving forward. And then item AA, 6AA, is the Dodd Commons final plat, which is the final plat for the new fire station.
Okay, very good. Council, anything you'd like to discussion? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda. Councilmember Walter?
I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, consent agenda passes. We'll now move on to 7A, public hearing and resolution adopting assessments for unpaid special charges, and I'll turn over to our finance director, Ms. Stahl. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This is our spring certification process, so it is a public hearing, and this is the way the city minimizes our losses due to bankruptcies that could happen by certifying these delinquent charges to the property taxes. So what we're covering tonight are delinquent utility bills, nuisance abatement, unpaid false alarms, and any tree removal charges. When we sent the letters out in February, we had about 15,000 for the delinquent utilities, 120 accounts. About 11,000 of that got paid off before this part in the process. So a lot of times, and these are the final accounts, so that's when a previous owner moved out, and there's still some unpaid balance. They do have a time, 30 days from tonight's meeting, to still pay off these delinquent assessments before they get put onto the property taxes, and that would be interest-free as well. So there's still a window of opportunity that people, even though they've gotten onto this list, they can still make good on the account before it gets onto their property taxes. We did see the utility payments are roughly about the same as we had last spring. Our nuisance abatements are actually more in line with what we had in 2024. And then false alarms are down. And then our tree removals, about the same as what we had in 2024 as well. So they're kind of right in line with what we've seen in the past. And with that, I will just open it up if council has any questions on this process. The letters were mailed to the previous owners and the current owners of properties, so they're all aware of this, these outstanding balances.
Okay. So any questions? This is a public hearing, so we'll open the public hearing if there's any comments.
Seeing no comment, I'll move to close the public hearing.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're now closed. Any final comments? If not, I'll take a motion to Councilman Bermel.
I move to approve the resolution adopting assessments for the unpaid special charges.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Sorry. Walter?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Volk? Aye. Hellier?
Aye.
Bermel?
Aye.
Okay, that passes. We'll now move on to assessment hearing for improvements to 214th Street, approval of resolutions and construction contract for the 2026 Miscellaneous project, and we'll turn it back to our Public Works Director. Welcome back.
All right, thank you, Mayor, City Council members. So, yeah, this is the item for the assessment hearing for 214th Street and the Miscellaneous project award of a contract. So tonight, we'd like to just review the project overview, review the project, review the scope and the street improvements that are proposed. We'll talk about the bid results that were received and the costs associated, costs for the total project cost, and then we'll review the assessments, proposed assessments, and I'd like to call the public hearing. So project area is 214th Street. It's in the commercial industrial district. It's just off of Hamburg Avenue, just south of Lakeville Boulevard and north of County Road 70. The project background is shown here. We originally started the feasibility report back in October. Feasibility report came back to the City Council for acceptance on November 3rd. We had a stakeholders meeting on November 5th. Held at the public improvement hearing on December 1st, and we worked on the plans and specs this winter. Bid opening on February 17th with another stakeholders meeting on March 3rd, and here we are at the assessment hearing on April 6th. So just a little bit about the project, the need for the project. The 214th Street is in very poor condition based on our OCI ratings. The project proposed is to reclaim the bituminous pavement that's out there today, and we'd like to use that as the base aggregate, but this is a full reconstruction. Typically, when you do a reclamation, you're only replacing some of the asphalt and or replacing the asphalt using that as the base aggregate. But in this situation, the pavement section is so poor that we are recommending a 1 foot section of sand to be installed within this section of the road, and then also beef up the base aggregate to 8 inches as well, and then pave a new pavement section over the top of that. And we are planning to urbanize the street consistent with all the other streets within our community. That includes curb and gutter and storm sewer improvements. We are looking at replacing a couple hydrants out here as well, and then installing a isolation valve for the hydrant or for the water tower and the well. This is to isolate the hydrant and the well from the rest of the distribution system, so we're not cutting off residents or businesses when those items are in need of maintenance. And then we're also replacing a couple of gate valves along the street as well. So back on February 26th, we did receive 3 bids for this project. McNamara Construction was the low bidder at $484,000. And then if you look at the project cost with indirect costs, including engineering and geotechnical, legal, and those type of things, and there's some contingencies in there, the total project cost is $651,000, which is a little bit above what the feasibility study had projected. We did run into additional storm sewer that was needed out here to facilitate the first center, and then the pavement itself, we found some additional areas that needed subcut. So we added a little bit beefier section in some areas in the street. But the assessments, special assessments, are about what they were in the feasibility study. So taking those costs, the costs that can be assessed back to the benefiting property owners, the total assessment per unit is proposed at $30,423.60. There are 5 properties along 214th Street that have benefit for this project, 2 of which are city-owned properties. So obviously those assessments the city would pay. So there's 3 businesses that would be proposed for this assessment. So the city assessment policy does follow Minnesota State Statute 429. And we do assess 40% of the benefiting improvements back to the property owners. That includes the street benefit and the storm sewer improvements. The water main and the sanitary sewer improvements are not proposed to be assessed, and those will be paid through the associated enterprise funds. So the assessment can be paid off in full prior to November 15th. Otherwise, interest would be charged after that date, and there's some dates where interest would charge up to the end of this year. But the terms of the assessment are proposed at 20-year assessment at 5% interest per the assessment policy. And so the assessments would be certified at the county in December if it were to move forward. We have not received any appeals for the assessments at this time, and written intent to appeal must be presented to by the property owner prior to this hearing or during the public hearing. Any appeals after this hearing would be invalid. And so if the project were to move forward tonight, 214th Street, we're looking at a construction start soon after road restrictions in April here, and we would have the project completed by June 16th or June 6th. Prepayment deadline again is November 15th, and then certification of the assessments would go to the county in December. So with that, I would stand for any questions, and I'd request a public hearing be opened.
I only had one question. That the intent is to have this done before the first center opens, right?
That's correct.
Okay, fantastic. This is a public hearing, so if anybody had any, I'll order the public hearing open. If anybody had any. Okay, Councilmember Bermel.
Yeah, I've seen that nobody's coming forward. I'd make a motion to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is closed. Without any further discussion, if not, I'll take one very long motion. Councilmember Bermel.
Move to approve, 1, resolution awarding a contract to McNamara Contracting Incorporated for the 2026 miscellaneous roadway repairs and overlays project, City Project 26-01, which includes alternate 1 for the Highview Avenue Trail improvements. 2, resolution adopting assessments for City Improvement Project 2601. 3, resolution authorizing funding and 2026 budget amendments and fund transfers. And 4, proposal with Braun Intertech for professional services.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Walter?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Volk? Aye. Hellier?
Aye.
Bermel?
Aye.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll now move on to item C, Lakeville 35 Logistics Center South Addition Preliminary and Plat and Conditional Use Permit. And Mr. Strom to tee this up. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Tom Strom with Likewise Partners here to represent our project. We're excited to get going on phase 2 of our Lakeville project, phase 1. We're currently leasing and having good success so far. We've got a couple of proposals on the first building. Hopefully you guys are excited about the way that turned out. We're pretty excited about it and why we're here to get going on phase 2. So here for any questions.
Okay, council, any questions? I mean, more jobs would be great. I mean, the turf is fine, but go ahead.
Very tall tonight. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Representatives from Likewise Partners have submitted the applications for a preliminary plat and a conditional use permit for a one-lot, one-outlot subdivision. The property is located just south of County Road 70 or Juniper Way and north of 215th Street. So it's that triangle-shaped piece. The property is directly across from their existing facility. The property is zoned OP Office Park. So the preliminary plat includes the one large lot and then an outlot. Conditional use permit also for the use for a warehouse. The site plan includes construction of a 171,000 square foot industrial building. It will be 2 egress points onto 215th Street, no access to County Road 70. The grading and drainage plan shows the ponding. This will be a private stormwater management system. There is a large wetland that is being completely preserved. There are trees within the wetland. That is very common. That will all be preserved, so there's no impact to the wetland or to the, and the proper buffer is being provided. In the OP district, we require a little higher percentage of open space. 30% is required. This plan is showing 46.6% green space. And for tree preservation, 70% is allowed. They are below that threshold. However, they are adding additional trees. We asked for the continuation of the landscaping that's really existing within this wetland to be continued along County Road 70, as well as along 215th Street. So in the conditional use permit, there's a stipulation to extend that along this side of the building as well. And then the appropriate building permit or landscaping is being provided. As he mentioned, the proposed elevations match pretty similar to the existing building. It's proposed with 96% or greater grade A materials, so a smooth precast concrete panel with white, gray, and blue accents. Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on this item on March 16th. The applicant was present. There was no public comment, and the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval. And I'd stand for any questions.
Okay, Council, any questions? Comments?
Just a comment. Looking at this, what struck me and I noticed was the building's orientation. Now, granted, there's a wetland there, and so even if we wanted to have parallel buildings on 70, it wouldn't have worked. But I'm just glad that there's some diversity in the orientation of the building, so you don't look like you're going through some sort of tunnel. And the building looks great too. So, good project.
Any other comments? Well, I'll just say the first one's been great, so we're glad that you're wanting to reinvest again in the city again, so thank you for that. Council, I'll take a motion to approve the resolution. Councilmember Walter?
I move to approve one resolution approving the preliminary plat of Lakeville 35 Logistics Center South Edition, and 2, approval of a conditional use permit to permit a warehouse building in the OP Office Park District and adopt the findings of fact.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Lee?
Aye.
Volk? Aye. Hellier?
Aye.
Bermel?
Aye.
Walter?
Aye.
Okay. We will now move into new business, but we're going to take a 5-minute break. We'll come back at 6:48. Allow those who are not on the agenda to call today. Call today. So if you're not on the agenda, no, call it a day. Yep.
it's not an auto bid.
Talk about a few other things.
Smoker on a grill.
For like 2 hours, and then I turned it up to 475 and seared. Okay, we'll now roll into our new business, or also known as our work session. First item is residential interim ordinance related to housing, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Goodroad to give an overview.
Thank you. As a request of the City Council, a draft residential interim ordinance has been prepared for your discussion. The intent of the ordinance is to put a pause in the acceptance of new applications for residential, to allow the city time to study impacts of the Metropolitan Council's Imagine 2050 regional planning document and its impact on our current 2040 comprehensive plan, as well as allow us time to start working on the update of our 2050 comprehensive plan. So the ordinance would apply to new applications for residential plat, a subdivision, comprehensive plan amendment, or a rezoning request for the period of 1 year, as it's written in draft form tonight. It does include a few exceptions. And then any preliminary plat that's already been approved is already automatically exempted. But a few additional ones that are being included in this draft include subdivisions which have preliminary plat approval, subdivision applications for preliminary plat that have been deemed complete. So those are those applications that we're currently reviewing. And there's currently 3 of them for a total of 120 lots. And then properties that are currently undergoing the AUAR process. In addition, the city has about 1,319 preliminary or final platted lots. So if this were to take effect, there is a large amount of lots, both single-family and townhomes, that have either received preliminary plat and are waiting for final plat, or are going through the process of final, the individual phased final plats, plus that additional 102 that are currently under review. So that's the way this draft stands. Staff will listen to your conversation and take any direction for any edits that you may wish to make, and I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Just kind of broader background too. I mean, part of this was impetus related to what's happening with the legislature and their efforts, an idea about preemption when it comes to local zoning. When I first had a conversation with staff about wanting to do this, it was a little bit more up in the air on whether or not that they were going to go through with all those changes, and I thought we would want to have plenty of time to think about how we wanted to react, other than what was kind of just in law. Now, since then, the bill had failed in committee, but legislative leadership has signaled that they still want to get something done this year. So they could, in theory, they could go through their rules committee and still bring something to the floor. So that's why I still want to have this conversation. My concern long term is that if we just keep building this year without having a moratorium. So whenever we kind of do that 1 year, it kind of puts a little bit more pressure on us to think through our comprehensive plan and how we may want to change things to react to what is happening to the legislature. And this gives us the opportunity, I think, to put a pause on construction other than what has kind of met these requirements, plats and so forth. But then we can kind of sit together in work session think about, okay, as we approach the comp plan, this is what we want to do while not having a lot of new construction happening at the same time. Because we may have radically different ideas of where we want to go with zoning and land use based on what the state is telling us. So that's kind of where this is, and I figured it makes sense to have a work session instead of just bringing an ordinance to us as we're kind of working through this. So that's kind of the background, and happy to open up conversation and discussion, and then if there's anybody that wanted to comment, we're welcome to do that too. But I don't know if you guys had any thoughts.
It's my fault. There seems to be some good examples just within our city over the last several years. There's been many changes. Has happened in some of our corridors. I mean, you look at Cedar and the lack of a bus line, and to me, that's a big consideration to what does that corridor look like going forward, because the density plan there was kind of centered around the idea of a bus line or some other transit option coming down. Similarly, you're seeing changes in use of office park districts, and folks are just not building office parks in the same way. I think the concern, and one of the examples that I keep thinking about, is a property near Antlers Park, which in its current form could be preempted for quite a large residential facility. And I think that's something that we've heard loud and clear from residents that they don't want there, and I know that there's likely other examples of that around the city as well. So one other thing that I think is timely is that we have a joint session with the school district coming up, and the topic is growth. And I think, all of us want to think about this thoughtfully, about where we're headed and what are the impacts of housing and density and zoning, both from a city standpoint and from a school district standpoint. I think there is a risk to a moratorium as well. I don't want, something else that I'm thinking about is I don't want this to feel like a city versus state thing, and have there be some sort of, conflict there, because this is important to both parties. I mean, there's a housing shortage in Minnesota. We all know this. So there needs to be a solution, but I think the issue for me is that it can't be a one-size-fits-all solution. And when we were at the Capitol recently, that seemed to be the direction the state was going, was a one-size-fits-all. And so I don't know what the leadership plans to do, even if it failed in committee. I don't know what that looks like, but I think that unknown is why we need to think about pausing intentionally here. So,
you bring up a good example because of Warwick, for instance. The new law would require us to pick about a third of all commercial land that we would want high density in. So while they give us time to do that, I want more time than what they're kind of talking about to be able to say, okay, because we're going to have to pick and choose where we still think commercial is viable based on kind of the growth, and not willy-nilly based because they want to get a good deal on land, for instance. So that's the perfect example of that. Councilor Walter?
Well, I think, first off, the discussion at the state level has been frustrating in many regards, largely because I don't think there's any city that's done more to address the housing needs of the state than Lakeville in recent years, in terms of leading in number of units and permits and all of that. So some of that's frustrating. I feel like what they're intending to do is intentionally jabbing those communities that are actually stepping up and contributing to the solution, whereas legislation exempts those communities that don't have housing going on in some of the smaller towns. So I think that frustration has been very apparent in the legislature. I agree with what Councilmember Lee has said. To me, it's a good time to take a breather and assess where we're at. I think there's, just hearing from people, I think there is some frustration with the growth of the community and how quickly we've grown, and the school issues are very real, and we'll be discussing those in the coming month as well. So I think it's generally a good idea, especially since we've got, there's still going to be growth going on because there's things that we've already approved. So I like the idea.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's just a curiosity question. How does something like this, I realize a year is a very short term, but how does it affect the property values for the current residents? And I don't know who answers that.
I mean, if new construction is limited, you would think that existing stock would increase just based on supply and demand, sale price. But I mean.
But we already went through this one time as a city, I mean, maybe a little bit longer, but what did it do to the existing property owners at that time? Does anybody know? I realize there really isn't anybody here, but, and what are you?
I would know. They went up, so former Administrator Erickson is saying that the property values went up.
I mean, Mayor and Council, I think it's hard to say, but I don't think it's been rare that property values have decreased in Lakeville, regardless of the circumstances outside of maybe the recession in 08 timeframe. So.
Well, I guess I was wondering if it was going to like temporarily inflate prices.
Well, it could. I would be more concerned about that if we didn't have the stock or the
1,500
number of lots that were still available. If you look just with the ones that have already been approved, it's probably 2+ years, 3 years worth of permits based on our historical average over the past 5 years or so. So I'd be more worried if it meant that there weren't lots ready to be built on.
So are we messing up any cyclical?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. No, I mean, I think there's probably.
Positives. I would like to hear some of the negatives.
No, I would guess that there's probably some greenfield, meaning areas in town that have not gone through any of our process that we would be delaying for a year. So that would be a negative from the builder's probably standpoint, that they would probably be frustrated. So, I mean, it would have some negative on that industry. Councilman Bermal?
I'm at the point where I can say ditto, because a lot of really good points have been made, including some of the questions about downside. I think because of, there's just a lot going on, particularly at the state, and I think it does make sense to take a pause, take a deep breath, and to just assess where we're at and how we can respond to, we have the Met Council, Imagine 2050. We have our own comp plan. We have the state doing things. It would be nice to be able to do that. And I'm confident about it because of the 1,319. I would also want to manage expectations that saying a moratorium for a year does not mean construction is going to stop. Mm-hmm. It's going to pretty much look like it had been for a while, especially right off the bat, because once again, we have 1,319 out there. Because I do agree that if that number wasn't at that point, I think it would have an impact, more of an impact than it will. So I'm supportive of it because I do think it's a good chance to take a pause, and it is feedback we get from the community quite a bit, and so it offers us an opportunity to just take a breath and see where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cedar Avenue is another really good example to say somebody could come in tomorrow and want to build an apartment where now that there's not transit, it might not make sense.
When would the year start?
From when we enact the ordinance.
Well, so I guess my thought process is that you wouldn't even want to enact it till it was closer to the end of session. I mean, so that you were timing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we probably wouldn't have anything ready by the 20th. First meeting in May. When I mean, or we could do it on the 20th.
It would depend on what the guidance is. I mean, the ordinance or the draft that's in your packet can be ready to go. We had posted on the website after tonight. There is some language in the proposed this proposed legislation, who knows where it's going to go, that does prohibit.
So we wouldn't want to wait.
Does prohibit moratoriums like this. And so
Unless they were already in effect?
that's
Or if it just doesn't matter, they're going to cancel the moratorium if it was a week into it and.
I'd probably defer to our city attorney on that.
At this point, it's not clear how that would apply to an existing moratorium. I would assume, though, it would be not retroactive. It would be
From that day. Councilmember Lee.
I just want to provide one little context, just for listening public purposes, that your comment, Councilmember Walter, about just the legislation. This is not a partisan issue, which is kind of interesting. If anyone's following these sessions, there is bipartisan support and bipartisan dissent on this housing issue. And so I just don't want anyone tuning in maybe to the first time on some of this housing legislation to think that this is a council that's talking about a particular party. This is, again, bipartisan across the board support and dissent for this. So that's why we just don't know exactly how the legislature is going to go or what's going to come out of this, because it's a very interesting session when it comes to negotiations.
Well, truthfully, I'm the only person here that doesn't want to do this, but everybody is like fully in charge, ready to rock and roll on it. So I just want to make sure that if we're going to do it then it's a timing issue. I want to make sure that we've got the right timing on it so that you get the results you're looking for.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. I think, is that?
Can I ask one question?
Yep.
Are the different exceptions that are in the draft acceptable?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, I think that's only fair.
Okay. Thank you, Tina. That was a good road. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to item B, water treatment expansion study. And Omi, you're back up again.
All right, thank you, Mayor, City Council members. So tonight I'd like to present again the water treatment plant expansion study and see Council's direction on how to proceed. No formal action is requested tonight. This is just an informational item, but staff is looking for Council direction on whether to advance one of the alternatives into design and long-range capital planning. Our consultant, Bo Johnson, is here from Black & Veatch. If you have any questions for him and to assist on any technical questions. So again, this item was brought before the City Council at a work session last year on August 25th to discuss water treatment expansion and alternatives. Tonight we are again, we're going to talk about all those alternatives, but we've got some updates in terms of the costs and the rate impact analysis that was done last year as well. So just to review, the water treatment plant was originally built in 1998. Originally it was at 10 million gallons peak production per day. Was improved or expanded to 20 million gallons per day in 2021, and then the filters were re-rated to 26.5 million gallons in 2015, and that's where we are today with our treatment capacity. So, but looking projected-wise, we are looking at needing additional capacity down the road to meet our full build-out and projections that for the city. So in the gap we're looking at is the capacity needed to make, to go from 26.5 million gallons up to the 33.1 million gallons. And that's based upon population projections that we have within the city, the peak factors that are typically used for these type of calculations, and the flow average or the consumption per person, per individual in the city, working on that.
So my question first question is based on that.
Okay.
You know, I think what did Met Council had us at 79,000 for now coming into 2026. I think it's low to say we're only going to add 6,000 people in the next 14 years. So let's say we get it's 90,000 by 2040. Is this enough capacity?
So there is some redundancy and some additional future capacity that we have built into the expansion projection. So the firm capacity is at 30.5 million gallons per day. That's if we just look at the population projections, and we are estimating a need for 33.5, which gives us a little wiggle room there.
So that we're talking about basically, if we're at 93,000, then we're maxed out because it's 10%, you know, over.
Right. Yep.
And then we got to think about, okay, so then we have to have the conversation about, you know, and whenever we hit that 93 number, then we're going to need more capacity. So, well, maybe you cover this. In either of these alternatives, can we, you know, can a future council say, okay, we're at 90,000, we're going to have to actually expand more than what we had planned back in 2026?
There is some opportunity in the alternate one to do additional expansion. Alternate two is a tight site, so there probably wouldn't be additional capacity that would be available there. But
technically, so you could still, let's say, so to get the biggest expansion though, population-wise and not cost whatever, it's building the secondary site, and then if we get over that 93,000, then expanding the initial water treatment plant at another cost to meet a higher demand.
That's another alternative that definitely would be
You can't
in play.
reverse that. You couldn't just
Well, he just said that this.
So, meaning you would just,
No, you could do, yes, or you could do it the flip. You could expand.
Expand first there and then eventually build the second one.
yeah.
An empty site. Yes, yeah, okay.
So yeah, there's multiple alternatives there, but
Of course, it costs more to
Right,
do years down the road.
yeah.
exactly.
Right.
So that's the biggest thing we like to talk about. So again, let's see. Again, the three alternatives that we discussed back in April or August of last year, was expanding the existing water treatment plant at existing site. The two was constructing a satellite water treatment plant someplace close along the raw water distribution main piping network. And then three was just looking at a max day bypass, which would include no treatment emissions at this time, but we would make accommodations to bypass the plant, but still treat the water for the EPA and Department of Health requirements of fluoride and chlorine, but we wouldn't treat for the naturally occurring minerals, manganese and iron that's in our water. So, and again, so the two alternatives that we looked at was expanding the existing water treatment plant, which is shown here at Ipava Boulevard, and then right across the street from the CMF Central Maintenance Facility and next to the Fisher property. And the lines shown on the map here are all of our raw water mains distributions that are collecting the water from the wells, bringing it to the water treatment plant. So again, alternate number one would be to add 2 additional filters at the existing water treatment plant. We would have to increase the high surface pumps to facilitate additional water distribution out of the treatment plant, making those from a 4 MGD pump and motor to 14 million gallons per day, and then adding a 1.5 million gallon reservoir at the existing plant site as well. And then there's some ancillary chlorine expansion, some electrical needs as well to facilitate those improvements. And then alternate number 2 was a satellite plant. This is one of the concepts that we looked at, was to add the water treatment plant on our existing property just north of 179th Street, just east of the well, or of the water tower. This is about a 20,000 square foot building. Access will be provided, off of Granby Lane. That's can be either off of Granby or Dodd Boulevard, and then there would be a clear well that would be constructed at this facility, and then a backwash tank as well that would be underground. So we talked about alternative comparisons, pros and cons for each of these alternatives. One of the biggest ones that we want to highlight again is the redundancy aspect of adding a satellite plant to the network. It does provide additional redundancy during any closure or disruption at the existing water treatment plant. It would provide an average winter day demand throughout the community as well, and it does provide resilience as well. We would be able to push water around to different parts of the city a little bit better than we are today, especially on the eastern side of the city, where the existing water treatment plant is about 5 miles away from Pilot Knob Road. We do, in the summertime, get some reduction of the water pressures in those areas. Get some complaints. The water treatment plant, the satellite plant, would definitely help that aspect as well. And then water quality-wise, alternate number 1 and number 2 are the same. Again, alternate number 3, where we just have the bypass, would definitely decrease the water quality, especially in the summer months at those peak period demand time frames. And then operations and maintenance. Again, the alternate number 1 and number 3 would be more or less the same. We do have additional equipment and operation maintenance needs for alternate number 2, so that's the big change there. And then future PFAS issues, if there were to be additional requirements where we'd have to start treating for PFAS, it would be, or any other contaminants within our water, it would be a lot easier to start with number 2 and work and do additional treatment at the existing water treatment plant at that time. So, and again, I just want to stress the redundancy is the biggest advantage to the alternate number 2.
Can I ask a really dumb question? It really is kind of dumb. I'll ask Justin, if we did 1 or 3, would we give up the land that we have available to be able to do a second water treatment plant? And so then at a future date, we'd be looking for a place to have it.
Sure. So staff would recommend that we hold on to that property regardless. In the upcoming meeting, you're going to be seeing a proposal for some future development concepts on the remaining parcels of that property, which is going to show that we're reserving this property either for public works usage of some kind or for a water treatment facility.
Okay.
It's not a stupid question.
Good question.
I think we all had it. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Yep. So moving on. So the preliminary cost estimate that we looked at, we refined some of the numbers and gave a range of what potential costs we could incur by each of the 3 options. So alternate number 1, the expansion, is anywhere we're thinking between 22 and 26 million. The new plant, satellite plant, would be between 37 and 42 million, and the bypass is the cheapest alternative with no filters and water treatment improvements at 14 to 16 million. So really, the new water treatment plant, the delta between alternate number 1 and number 2 is about $15 million, and that's the redundancy benefits that you receive and the resilience of the ability to push water around to different parts of the city as need be. So, and then we did complete a comparison of our community with other similar sized cities within the metro area here. The results were that most of the cities our size have at least one treatment plant. There are a few cities that only have one, but I know Maple Grove is looking at adding a satellite plant in the future. So that's just kind of another data point to consider.
How many wells do we have?
We have 20 wells. So, oops, and then again, so.
Can you go back one more?
Yep. So utility rates analysis that was completed last year as well, based upon the costs that were provided back then. The satellite plan, we would be looking at a 5% rate increase between for 2027 and 2028, assuming a 20-year bond. And for the expansion of the existing plant, we're looking at a 2% increase in 2027 just for that expansion.
Are we able, and maybe this is a question for Ms. Stahl, let's say, if you think about the crunch right now in the economy, people are, affordability obviously is a big question. Can we spread that out where we're doing 2 or 3% over a couple of years versus a big push of 5 and 5? Or does that impact how we can pay back the bonds?
Mayor, we did factor in, so with the CIP, we built it based on the scenario 1 with the satellite plant. So that's issuing $35 million of bonds. And, we could spread those rate increases out, but again, it's all in the timing too, because we're already tapping into the operating funds for part of the funding sources. So, the bonding issues, we could it depends how we would structure that. Northland would be a guide on that. We'd have to consult with them as far as, can we spread these increases out?
Mm-hmm.
And what does that look like for the stability of the funds that are helping to source this?
Yeah, I'd be curious just to say if we were doing 3.33 versus 5.5 and 3 point, whatever.
And that's
it, okay.
Yep, definitely look at that.
Well, I know this is really goofy, and maybe there's a way to do it, but is there like a way to borrow from ourselves so that you're using those, the funds that you're gonna use for the fire station, but you're planning on using it for water in the future? I can't remember what you call it, but do you know what I'm trying to say?
Franchise fee?
So there's no way to wiggle anything so that you pay for it through that utility?
The franchise fees, we definitely structured those to be paying the principal and interest on the fire station and the First Center bonds only.
One of the questions I had was related to the footprint of the current water treatment plant. Seems to be limited by road infrastructure. But I'm thinking about how the fire station that's there now may not be used in the same way in the future. Does that have the ability to expand our footprint to allow for larger expansions? So if we moved a road, for example, or a parking lot.
Yeah, moving a road is cheap compared to this infrastructure, so we can move roads and push things around. Maybe just go back to that. Oops, go back to that slide. The alternate one. So. Yeah, so again, the filters would be on the south end of the building, so that kind of there's really no impacts to that. The original water treatment plant layout had already envisioned expansion of the clear well up in the northeast corner. of the site here, so that's already been planned for too. So, I mean, in terms of needing additional property, I think the campus right now is adequate for, for this type of improvement.
So if there was need for part 2 of an expansion in 2040, can you expand it further?
Well, yeah, that it would be hard.
Or just like going to the max with alternate one?
It more or less is. I mean, we really don't have much room for additional clear water storage up in this area. We are pretty much, I mean, you can move the road down here a little bit. In terms of the filters, the problem is we really have to look at the distribution mains coming out of the plant as well too. So those, I mean, I think and Vol can help me out here, but I think the plant was only looked at for one expansion and up to a certain gallons per minute in terms of the design for the pipes and for the other infrastructure associated with the distribution system. So that might have to be looked at if we go above and beyond the first expansion up to that 33 million. So.
I mean, one thing that I appreciated about the planning of the water treatment plant is that when you're inside, you can see especially where the filter addition place. I mean, you can see where the wall is intended to be
absolutely
expanded. I mean, that's exactly where it was intended to go. So great planning. I don't know how many years ago this building was built, but great planning there.
Yep.
So I guess Alternative 3, I think we've already said is off the table. I don't think anyone really wants that as an option to just bypass the chemicals that we use to make our water drinkable and soft and all that kind of stuff. But Alternative 1, I am really weighing how much redundancy is worth the $20 million for a new facility. Because the current one has redundancies built in, not to the level that I think the ideal is. But I mean, we have, you mentioned, I asked a couple questions via email, and you mentioned that there's already redundancy in power with a generator. There are some other internal things that we can do to manage some redundancies, but it's not to the fullest capacity that we could. With a separate site. But how much more redundancy is worth that 20 million is kind of what's going on in my head. And I can't justify it at the moment. I think with the planning that was already done with this facility, I'd like to make sure we have that land on hand for additional expansion at a separate site in the future when we need to think about that. But there are also other ways we can be thinking about managing peak water use when it comes to policy, how people use their irrigation systems in the summer. And we haven't needed to use that lever that much, but I think it is something that we can consider if we want to keep those peak use numbers down. So that's why I think I really am heavily leaning on Alternative 1. So I don't know, other thoughts?
Paul, can you talk again about, and you haven't really covered this, but when you talk about redundancy, I agree with you, except for like site redundancy and cyber attack type stuff I get worried about. So having a secondary physical site, can't put a dollar on that. So if you have any thoughts about that. And then the other aspect, you mentioned something about how Site 2 can pivot a little bit easier on PFAS future stuff versus Site 1. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So for the redundancy, again, having two plants, as shown by other communities our size that have two plants, you look at it from, just a site perspective. So if there's a fire or a tornado that would just hit hit the water treatment plant, we would be down for an extended period of time. At least when you have a satellite plant, you could meet those winter day demands, or even the average day demand potentially if you have a satellite plant. So we're just looking at kind of worst case scenario type of situations when we get that satellite plant. We do have a lot of redundancies within the plant, but I mean, it's a mechanical system. There's a lot of moving parts of that thing, so a lot of things that can go wrong on a daily basis. But there are a lot of different things that, a lot of advantages to having that satellite plant, and it just, it's something that communities our size have always looked at, and at least in the metro area here, having a somewhat of a backup system if the main water treatment plant were to go down. So that's the importance, I think, of the satellite plant. Now for PFAS, it's more of an engineering question. Once you get the filters in there, and the configuration just gets kind of screwed up of how to treat it, and where the pipes are. And Bo Johnson can address that a little bit more. But it's more complicated to treat PFAS after you get some more of the filters in here. So that's the only thing that we want to note on PFAS improvements. So.
Yep. Sure. Hey, Bo Johnston. Thank you for having me here tonight. So specifically related to PFAS, that satellite, usually with the PFAS, you have some sort of polishing treatment on the end of a plant. So, you're already treating the water and you're putting in another facility that is kind of handling that, handling just the removal of the PFAS. So obviously with the existing plant, you have large flows and the space is pretty much allocated. We don't have a lot of place to put another building or another set of contactors to remove those PFAS. Now, at a satellite plant, we can plan for that a little bit easier, leave a little bit of space. If something happens, now we have the ability to send that water directly to that plant. Right now, we have taken, as part of the study, we did take a look at your PFAS. You guys currently don't have a PFAS issue. So, but there's a lot of folks around there that have that PFAS contingency plan on what happens if. And so it would be easier to kind of save space on that other facility for that type of treatment. I'm not an engineer at all, or anything in any of this. I can build a Lego. So let's say a well in one part of the city identifies PFAS. Can we direct that well just? Let's say, could we only adapt one plant for PFAS and not the other one? Or would you have to have it on both? Well, so we can kind of take a look at it from it's regulated from a blended standpoint. So if you have one well that's high in PFAS, typically you would treat that one well. That's called wellhead treatment. If you have a number of wells that have PFAS, now you're kind of going to a more of a water treatment plant treatment. So we would try to direct those wells to that place where you have treatment. And I think that there was a map. All your current wells don't really have it, so you could isolate that off and send all those wells to your current water plant because that's where they're going right now. You don't have a problem. Those new wells would need to go to that new plant. Okay. I told Bermal first. Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you. I was just going to say, as I read through all of this and considered it, I look at water and I go, this is probably the most life-sustaining resource the city offers the community. Every bit of emergency manager in me says redundancy is particularly important for something like this. So I lean towards option 2 in having a satellite system simply for redundancy. And, the mayor alluded to a cyber attack or something or any kind, and you now have 2 places that are going to be more redundant. So I favored alternative number 2. I have to say, though, when I look at the sticker on them, neither of these is cheap. And, it's at first, my first glance, it's like, well, it's only $15 million more. Well, that's a lot of money. But I do think that whatever we do, it's going to be cheapest to do it now, whichever. We can't do both. I really appreciate the question earlier about population growth, that if we did do 2 sites and our population still grew beyond our wildest expectations, we have the ability to add on to one of those to address that need. And that's going to be obviously be more expensive in the future. So I recognize the cost. I think that whichever one we're going to do, we're going to have to take a good look at the projects that we have going at any time and figure it out. But I favor, simply from a redundancy and a security standpoint, I favor alternative number 2.
Councilor Lee.
Just going back to your PFAS comment about where it's easier to build, but if we didn't have that second site on the table at all, are you saying you can't fit that facility?
No, I'm not saying you couldn't fit the facility at this, and we did do a study. Well, it was a technical memorandum specifically saying what do you do if you have PFAS, and we did have a alternative that would convert some of the space in the back. You can kind of see up on the top of that could convert it to this additional PFAS. It will be tight. You could do it. You could put some sort of treatment on there. It would just be a very cramped site on where we would be. But we do have options there. I think the point is it would just be easier at the other site.
Sure. I also don't believe we're completely landlocked in our current footprint. It takes some negotiations and some movement around of things, but this isn't the borders here are not firm. We could figure out other ways to make this bigger too, but.
So they want to build the middle school on the other side of the road.
Just to be clear, though, I think what Paul was saying earlier, though, is there's a limit to how much expand that can leave the site.
Yep.
So we could buy new property around there, but that doesn't necessarily mean we can produce more water out of it.
Right. Well, and just to be clear, it was more in relation to the PFAS, which isn't really increasing your capacity. It's just another type of treatment that you'd need to build on top of it, right?
Plus, it also has to go into what the levels of PFAS are.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 20 wells right now. Majority of the wells, I think there's a couple wells with some very minor low level below the regulatory levels right now. So there's some there, but it's very low levels, right? So you have to look at it from the effluent after everything's kind of blended together and it goes out the plant. Now, if you have a large plume that is in some wells, that can add some stuff up, or that can increase the PFAS on the back end of the plant, then you have to put the treatment in. But there are other options. There's wellhead treatment, putting it at the well, treating that directly, then putting it into the system and bringing it over. Typically, that's pretty expensive. I know that Woodbury put in some emergency wellhead treatment while they got their water treatment plant up and running, but it is kind of an expensive ordeal if you're dealing with it on that end. Councilor Walter?
I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't complain about the need to, that we're planning for, 3 days a year or whatever at that peak usage, that it's the whole system is built for, when that first graph you showed, when all the usage is well below that, we're all just preparing for that really hot day when everybody's watering their lawns. So I
3 months of the year,
well,
not 3 days. I mean, it's the.
Well,
the water goes up.
How many peak use days do we have? I mean, how many would we do we get close to that?
Right now, we're not close to our peak. It'll be a couple more years, but it all depends on the weather, obviously. So
Right.
we could have one, in the last 5 years, 6 years, we've had pretty mild summers. That can
Right.
change in a dime, and we could be, maxing out our plant on a daily basis really quick.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's just
I just don't know.
no. That's just a
I
general
just wanted to-
frustration. We're building.
I wanted to broaden it.
That's okay. I will rebut during your remarks as well. So anyway, that aside, whether disagreements obviously on that topic, I think regardless, I think we should look again at restructuring the water rates to incentivize less water use. I hate to raise that issue again, but you've got a lot of people watering a lot of lawns,
Yeah.
And that's driving up the rates for all of us. And and we can't just flip a switch and turn off irrigation. We have our ordinance on when you can water and not, and
Yeah.
half the
And
people
then
live
if
by
we're-
that, half the people don't know it's there, and so anyway, that's my little opening ventilation here, but and not to muddy the water, but I think I agree with John on the redundancy piece. I mean, we're in weird times. I don't think you can articulate how valuable that is, so I'm leaning towards that option, I think, but.
What is it like our timeline? Because the reason I'm asking this question is, if we had a little bit of information, think about, one, if we tweak rates a little bit, based on what you're saying on usage, and then do we,
How much, I mean.
or
what
look at
capacity
it.
there is. Yeah, look at.
We look at it under a new system, and then also looking at spreading out the 5% over maybe a couple of years. I mean, do we have enough time to have that conversation? What's like our
Pre-raise.
I mean, what is our conversation timeline?
That's fine. I mean, if you, we could talk about it over in the next few months. I mean, our goal was to try to get, something designed this fall and potentially built 2027. But I mean, I think we still have some flexibility in our schedule to accommodate, and look at those questions.
Yeah, I wouldn't slow down any of the design stuff. I just think we'll be able to have a better answer on financing and.
They have to slow down the design stuff unless we tell them that we're going with an alternate, and then keep going, and then
yeah.
have a conversation. Otherwise, they have to slow down because they have no idea if we're going 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah, I guess for me, no matter what, like I'm okay today with the redundant site at the 5 and 5. I'm just trying to think, how can we ease this on water users? So that's why for me, like, I don't see it slowing down. It's just at the same time, can we parallel track conversations about the financial side of things and the impact?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, we can probably get back to you pretty quickly on the rate side of things. What might be a little bit longer of a discussion, we'd have to talk with Northland on that, who also does the water utility rate, structuring the tiers. That might be a little bit more.
Well,
involved,
I guess
but
what if we don't even?
we can come back to you probably in the next month or two, I would say, on the.
Yeah, I guess, how do you break up the 3% or 3.5% a year amongst the higher tier and the?
Yeah, we can, I think the model's set up to where we can play with that. We can.
Okay.
We can come back.
So I'm leaning towards, it's cheaper now. I realize it's expensive.
On the
I don't-
second site.
But to build on the second site, because we have it, it's a great location for it, and it's a great place to have the redundancy, and it plans for the future in case we get even bigger. I have a feeling we are.
I
So,
agree. You're kind of still at the same spot.
Yeah, I'm not going to end up agreeing with you all on that one, but it doesn't happen very often, but it's okay.
Yeah. So I think keep down the road on 2, and then we can continue having conversations about the financial impact on ratepayers.
Very good.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate the direction.
You get to stay, because now we're going to talk about the other largesse you want to spend money on.
yeah.
Paul,
Yeah, but that one's needed.
jamming all of his requests at one time.
Get them all done. Point.
Right. There it is. It's coming.
We got it. Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so this is, I'd like to talk a little bit about our central maintenance facility needs study that was recently completed. So, just the little background on the facility itself. So the central maintenance facility was constructed in 2002. Building size is little over 109,000 square feet. The CMF does house the street division, fleet division, park maintenance, forestry services employees, and then the construction services employees as well. So with a total of 46 full-time staff members to date, and then we expand that to another additional 35 seasonals during the summer months. So the CMF needs study, there was first, the CMF needs study was originally completed in 2016, and we recently updated it this year just to take a look at how things have changed. The study did include, our current study did include the current operations, how we, what's the operations that take place at the facility, at the fleet inventory. We looked at a deep dive into that, the facility conditions. The building is getting a little old, and then the future community growth as well. And so one of the key assumptions that we made was that the maintain all the operations from Public Works and Parks, the services would be maintained at its current levels. We're not going to be moving up or down on the service levels. That was just our baseline. And then our goal is to identify long-term facility improvements to support those operations. So looking at the city, again, talking about growth from 2002, population back then was right around 45,000. Today it's like 78,000, so it's a 73% growth. Again, the street lane miles, the center line miles we're at 210 back in 2002, and now we're at about 335, 60% growth there. Plow routes have doubled. Park amenities, parks itself are up from 41 to 73 right now and growing. And then, park acreage as well, too, is up about 80%. So a lot of growth that has happened over the time. And looking out into the future, we still have approximately 3,400 acres left of developable land that's out there, not including any annexations at this time. So there's still potential for a lot of growth. And then we are assuming a full build out in 2040. So what we did look at, again, was the current facility and what's happening at the facility. So vehicle storage, where we house all of our vehicles, is undersized. Currently, our operations, we're parking vehicles, specifically a lot of our pickup trucks in the drive aisles over the night, just because we're out of space. Or parking them outside, and obviously parking vehicles outside does increase some of the maintenance issues and longevity of those vehicles. Parking vehicles in the drive aisles, that can be a safety hazard for the employees to try to get in and out and move vehicles around like that. And then also with the loss of the old Public Works building, we did lose some seasonal storage there at now that we had to find space for. So currently we are renting off-site warehouse space to accommodate most of that equipment. So for the maintenance operations, the fleet shop is currently, we feel, is undersized for the amount of vehicles and the maintenance that's required for our fleet mechanics. And then we only have one wash bay currently right now, which for all the vehicles, especially in the winter months, it really slows down the operations, cleaning and making sure those vehicles are well maintained and cleaned for the next, say, event. And then looking at the office and lunchroom areas, there currently is no security barriers between the reception area and the staffing office area. So we'd like to look at improving that. And then the lunchroom is not very functional right now for meetings and joint meetings and things like that, gathering areas. There's a lot of changes that should take place there. We did look at a space comparison from of other communities as well, and they're shown here. So, you know, based upon where the city's at our current spot, we have one of the smallest facilities based comparative to our other cities. As you can see here, you know, we have one of the highest amounts of parks or in park areas and street miles that we maintain, but we have one of the smallest facilities on this list.
Even Rosemont's pretty big and fancy now.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I just toured it. Yeah, it's huge.
Yep. And then, so again, the recommendations would be to increase the size of our indoor storage to accommodate full fleet storage in one location. We'd like to add wash bays to facilitate, you know, operations and making sure that operations are taking place on a timely basis and not being backed up and lingering for days on end. Adding a sanitary bay for parks for their garbage truck. For fleet area, again, we'd like to add additional service bay for vehicle storage, and then a welding bay and fabrication area, which is the one we have right now is undersized for our needs. And then looking at the office improvements, so again, we'd like to improve the reception area for security, making sure there's a barrier between the office area and the public space, similar to what we have here at City Hall. Reconfiguring the office space to accommodate current and future staffing, and then remodeling the lunch area to have it a better meeting space. And then we'd like to add additional parking and some minor access improvements on the west side of the facility. So this is a aerial view of what the improvements are proposed to be. So the big red area, again, is the vehicle storage area. That would be the addition. The blue area to the south, that's the mechanical bays that would be added, plus the welding bay area, adding parking to the northeast side, additional parking area there, and then some access off to the west by the existing cul-de-sac. And then I just wanted to highlight this. So the stalls shown here in green are the stalls that already would be utilized with our existing vehicles that we already have. So 58% of the addition that is being proposed right now is just to store, park the existing vehicles that we already have in our inventory. So here's just a real snapshot of the, quick snapshot of the facility improvements. Again, security out in front by the reception area here, adding some walls, reconfiguring some of the office space here. The lunchroom is shown here in green too, so that better utilizing that space for meetings and meeting areas. Office or the fleet area, again, the mechanics bay, the welding bay is here. Reutilizing the small welding bay here for additional service area, and then remodeling the fleet office area for small meeting area as well. So I guess the question is, why now? The city, you know, again, has grown over 70% since the existing facility was built. We are in need of additional storage space for existing fleet inventory. The existing facility, again, is at capacity. The loss of the old Public Works building has reduced our availability for storing vehicles at this time. And then the city is currently paying to rent off-site warehouse space to accommodate some of that storage needs. So the preliminary cost, as put together by Ortel Architects, is shown here. The rough estimate right now is a little over $28 million. Most of that cost is associated with the vehicle storage at $26.1 million, and the associated cost for the other areas is shown as well. So that's highlights of the needs study, and I'd open it up to any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Well, I remember going to this my first year in council. I thought, well, I'll never have to worry about that. That's 10 years from now. But here we are. So my first question is, Brad, how much of the first center are you willing to give up for inside storage?
It's a loaded question, but, I mean, there is the warehouse being built down there, obviously, and it won't be occupied entirely by police and fire, so there will be some storage, but certainly less than they had in the past, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay. So then well, I'll let you guys talk too. I have some opinions about, you know, the office stuff makes total sense to me, the maintenance and all. It's the inside storage that I have a little bit of heartburn, and I'd like to think about, you know, how do we do everything when it comes to office space, lunchroom, maintenance, wash, and then thinking about maybe like not heated covered for the vehicles instead, and what does that look like? And carport, you know, or whatever it is. So I don't know if you've looked at numbers and that or what other people have, and at least where I was starting with it. Because for me, I've gone to lunch there, and they definitely, he's not kidding when you talk about lunchroom and all that kind of stuff and office, and it makes total sense to have more ability to wash bay and do sanitation and maintenance for sure. It's just that, you know, we would all love heated indoor parking.
But when you look at the fleet, I mean, you walk through the aisles now, our fleet is maintained immaculately. I mean, the vehicles, I don't know how old they are, but you can tell that they're well maintained. And I think part of that is because of the facility that they are stored in. This expansion was a lot more attractive when we were talking about alternative one in the last one.
Of course.
I have a really hard time.
Imagine.
Yeah.
I know. We could do both of these projects as alternative two. That's really my only comment, because I do think that we need this to maintain our assets well, because I think part of that is just maintaining the value of the fleet that we have and being able to repair our fleet and store it. So, I mean, I can't argue against any of these improvements. I just, again, go back to what we just talked about, and I think we could pay for it all within the last budget of
So
alternatives.
Thomas,
$26 million vehicle storage, though, is a lot different than a water treatment plant for $26 million. Do you see the difference to the public? They understand you need to treat water. What they will never quite grasp is why we're spending $26 million to keep everything undercover. So I'm just saying, you know, there's a lot of story that's got to go with that, but one is easier to explain than the other.
Sorry, did you have an answer about covered storage versus?
well, I was just going to recommend, Thomas Stromstead is here from Ortel Architects. They helped us put together the needs study. Yeah. Maybe Thomas has some ideas on, how to, facilitate some of the questions that you have here.
Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah.
I do think there's a way to create different solutions for different portions of the fleet. You know, Paul talked about rotational stock. I think there's something with a cold storage solution where we could downsize the warm storage, leverage some into a colder storage. I mean, right now we're looking at getting all of the fleet inside and planning for some growth. I think there's a pathway that leads us to having all the fleet inside, plan for X amount of growth, and then facilitate off-site or on-site storage at a, I don't want to say lesser quality, but a different environmental condition. So I think there's flexibility in that 26 million. But it's such a catch-22 because as the building gets more expensive, you know, all the rolling stock gets more expensive too. I mean, you're looking at $650,000 for a plow truck and keeping that outside. But there are things where you could keep the trailers, for example, is a very common thing that we see put into a cold storage solution. So.
Yeah. Well, I just think there's a lot of stuff that trailers and lawnmowers, kinds of stuff. You have other? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, I looked at this and, you read the water treatment one and then you read this one and you go, wow. But I had the same thought. It's like, I don't think, I totally agree that we don't want these vehicles sitting outside exposed to the elements, because the first time a hailstorm comes through,
Yeah.
that's gonna be pretty brutal. So I think there's some value in having them at least covered, enclosed, probably enclosed, but whether or not it's, warm storage or cold storage, I think I would look for the cheapest alternative.
It's just that we don't get any difference in insurance rates hardly, so, I mean, we're having cars repaired for hail damage, we're having them repaired for hail damage.
Yeah, you gotta repair them, no, and if they're sitting inside, you wouldn't be repairing.
You're insuring them, there isn't a different insurance rate for them being inside versus out.
Is there an impact on insurance, Justin?
I don't know if there's a difference there.
Okay. All right, that's just what I was thinking.
And then just one thing to point out, much like the discussion we had with the water treatment plant, that plant was designed for expansion. This site was also designed for expansion, so this isn't something that, we've had, the CIP for 10 years, and it's always been 2 years out and 2 years out, so it's probably about time that we try to figure something out.
And I don't disagree with the idea that it needs to be expanded, and I think we need to protect the vehicles.
Well, and it gets more expensive every year we wait.
I'm just kind of trying to figure out if there's a way to do that a little bit cheaper. And that's the big thing. And then the other question I had as I read it, you talked about long-term facility needs and planning that. And I really appreciated the picture with the green dots, because I think that was really a good visual about how we can immediately begin to use that, but that it won't be full the second we move those vehicles over there. So I appreciated seeing that, and I just, in the back of my mind, I'm going, how far in the future? Is it 10, 15, another 20 years? Because we will, at some point, we'll reach our critical mass, but I think there's going to be some growth.
We can value engineer the storage facility a little bit more and come up with some options there to try to reduce some of that cost and bring that information back to you at a future new business section as well.
Yeah. I think
I'd like to see them get to the point though where they have more than one wash bay. That's just nuts. We've been putting this off forever and a day since I first got elected to the.
No, I agree. I think we're all kind of at this point where it's time. We've kicked the can for a decade, and so now it's time to do something. It's just, how can we tweak it and maybe, so I think that makes total sense to try to value that up a little bit. But it sounds like we're all fine with the office and everything. It's just the vehicle storage, how do we get more creative with that? And I'll say it just one last time. Let's have one more conversation with the school district, because they have these needs too. They've balked at that time and time again, but maybe they're finally willing to have, and maybe we'll bring it up at our meeting on the 27th.
A good point.
We've had that where they've said for a long time they don't really want to partner on some cost for that stuff, and maybe they do. I don't know. Okay. Any other?
They never have any money though. It's not their fault, but they really don't have.
They're about to, well.
I know.
I'm not going to get into
saying.
that. Yeah.
We can tell they're good for how long? 5 years? Then they're going to come back at us and say, we're making cuts and we got to take our vehicles away.
Yeah. So I think you have direction. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Anything else last before we move on? Okay. Thank you, guys. Council committee updates? I think the only thing Justin sent this out. Let's think about who wants to go to Park City?
Nashville.
Nashville for NLC. So think about that. It's on my 42nd birthday, so I don't know if I'm going to go. With that, announcements. The State of the City is on Wednesday at Chart House. So it's a Lakeville Chamber event with myself and city staff giving updates on what happened last year. Next council meeting is April 20th here in the council chambers. As we kind of alluded to, There's a special city council meeting with ISD 194 on Monday, the 27th, right here at City Hall. Then I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.